pleasure speaking to you, Tom. I appreciate it.
That's all right, mate. Pleasure.
And thank you so much for a fantastic album, man. It's so good. So good. Congratulations on Social Disguises.
Before we start, your
Yep.
review of it
Uh-huh.
has been the subject of much discussion because I, it's such a it's such a good review, and I don't mean that. I mean not a favourable review. We get those. I've been doing this 20 years. You get favourable and unfavourable reviews. It is maybe maybe the first time ever that I've read a review where I feel like you understood where the emotions of the songs were rooted, not just this is what the album sounds like. And
Yeah. It's
it's
great. Sorry, I don't interrupt you, but I don't like to kind of delve too deep into the songs because I know that kind of delving too deep kind of ruins it for the fans and the audience because they want to take their own things away from it. But I just kind of really felt there was a lot of kind of angst and anxiety and all kinds of things kind of coming out of those songs.
Yeah, it's so unusual for me to read a review that goes below the surface level. I wanted to, well, first of all, say well done, what
Well, thank
amazing
you.
journalism.
I was worried you were gonna rip it to pieces or
No,
something.
mate, absolutely not. It's proper journalism, and
Brilliant. Thanks so
I,
much.
I googled you before this interview, and I think I understand why now because it said psychologist turned journalist.
Right. That's
It
yeah.
all made sense to me. I was like, you want to understand people. You're not just looking like, how does this music sound? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But
But
mate,
that kind of by extension that shows that you really weren't interested in just making music here. You were interested in making a statement, and it really does kind of make quite a few statements. I mean, I read that you'd written kind of like you'd written demoed about 90 different songs. Is that right?
yeah. So there
So
were
how the hell do you go from 90 songs to these and to make such a statement out of? Because I imagine most of those songs were pretty much kind of in the same vein and wanting to say the same kind of things. No,
yeah. I think ah, I wish we could have written more. Um,
really.
yeah. It's it was such a difficult process, honestly, making this album, but an enjoyable, challenging process. Not Previous albums have been difficult through external factors and other people changing the way I like to do things. Um, this one was difficult because I really, really wanted to get it right. You know, we there were some wrongs that needed to be corrected. But to answer your question, how do you get it from 90 down to to 10 or 20? Um, I It's a balancing act. And further to that, how do you maintain the clear messages that are there? How do they not get thrown away because that song doesn't have a strong enough chorus? I think
Hmm.
um, there's. I didn't set out to go, this is what I want to communicate on this record. So it
Yeah.
wasn't that we had a manifesto or an agenda of subject matter. The subject matter came last. The musical engineering happened first.
Right.
I had to figure out what does an Enemy record sound like because that's such a complex question for me because I've
Yeah.
not.
And this felt like probably the most varied album as well, or at least I thought so as well. There's kind of different genres in there. But
That's good to know.
I think so.
It's really interesting for me to hear and kind of good to know because we've made albums in the past that were very sort of one thing. Streets in the
Yeah.
Sky does that one thing. That is the sound. Every track is basically the same in terms of sound and approach, and the subject matter changes. And that really doesn't sit well with me because I listen to that record now and I'm bored by the time I get to halfway through it.
Yeah.
Um, so I want variety on a record because it needs to keep your interest, right? So
Sure. Uh-huh.
um, I think that the subject matters that ended up on the album pretty much are by chance, but there will be themes. So I write in blocks. So I tend to, when I was writing for this record, I would go in every single day and write a song. So this 87 or 90 number is that's the number of completed demos. The actual amount of songs that I started writing for the record is probably, it's well
A
over
lot
100,
more.
maybe in the hundreds. The record took 2 years, so going into a room most days and writing, it's a lot of songs. And there were sort of thematic blocks in terms of musically. There would be a phase of I'm writing up tempo ones, riff driven ones or chord driven ones, and probably I'm guessing it because I don't know, but I would guess if I reviewed it now, probably the same thing lyrically. That there would be ones where this is what's irking me at the minute, or this is what I'm processing
Right.
at the moment, and so you get those blocks, and then out of those blocks, you choose the strongest ones, and they make the cut.
Sure. I mean, you mentioned there that it took two years to kind of come up with their final product, the end product. Um, Over those 2 years, so much has happened internationally and nationally. So there must be so many different kind of things that have irked you, and you've got you've plenty of chips on your shoulder that you could have kind of decided to bring into the album. So did the album, any of the songs change over that 2 year period because of how changeable society has become in the last few years?
Um, I don't know is the honest answer. Um, Probably because it's we're all shaped by what by
What's going
environment.
on? Yeah, the zeitgeist there.
Um, but it's I kind of there were a couple of things. There were a couple of things that I kind of wanted to touch on. Um, One was this this reality of getting older, right? The thing that none of us can escape. Um, and I didn't know how to do that at first. That took a lot of attempts because I had to work out how I felt about it,
Right.
and that's quite tricky because it's the thing we all wrestle with. The minute you're sort of past your 30s, you become aware, don't you? And
Tell me about it. Yeah,
and
exactly.
the longer you live after your 30s, the more aware, the more acutely aware you become. But I think I think so. That was something where I went. I'd like to touch on that, and I'd like to touch on the aspect of missed opportunity, um, or maybe lack of opportunity, and being stuck somewhere where you felt like you had potential. Um, and so, but they were the only two things where I really kind of went, "This is what I want to talk about." Everything
Mm.
else, I just accidentally wrote about, which
Yeah,
I think when I write my best stuff is when I don't know what I'm.
it just comes organically now. Yeah,
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 and then I normally spot it by the time I get to the second verse, and I go, "Oh,
right.
it appears I'm writing a song about this bit of culture, or
Yeah,
this thing in society." And then I go, "Huh, well, how do I feel about that?" And sometimes I'll then go back and adjust it and go, "Well, actually, now I've thought about that, my initial guttural or knee-jerk reaction to this isn't how I really feel," and you adjust it, and um, because the lyrics always come last for me.
right.
I always I start with the basis of the song, sometimes a hook, um, and then I'll start building that. The musical gets produced, and I'll have normally a melody in my head, and quite honestly, it starts with what words fit that melody, and then those words become the jumping off point for the subject matter. That's normally
Right.
how I work.
Uh-huh. You mentioned that about you really wanted to kind of get off your chest this idea of missed opportunities, which was I mean the Boxer, obviously the opening song is very much about that. But I mean, I don't see you as someone who's missed opportunities. I mean, you've made had a really great success out of the band. So where's this desire to kind of get that off your chest come from?
Because where I came from was very working class. Um, what wasn't horrendous. There are way worse places to be born, in this country, way worse places to go to school and grow up, let alone the world, right? So, like, I feel pretty lucky to be born working class in Britain because
Yeah,
it's
sure.
in a lot of other places. But a lot of the people that I know that I grew up with, their life looks nothing like mine. Not for lack of talent, not for lack of intelligence, and not for lack of trying. Um, and certainly when I was in my early 20s and the band was taking off, that became acutely. It was so obvious to me. I've had this amazing opportunity. I've really got to make the most of it. But at the same time, you know, I know people who are just as talented as me who haven't had this opportunity and won't get it. And then the next phase of my life, I entered into creative workplaces, right? Working with major record labels, encountering people who come from a background of, wealth or privilege who are rubbish.
Yeah.
I'm
No, no, 100%. Yeah.
thinking, why are you here? I'm going, I understand why you're here.
Hmm.
Um, and there is this, I'm not saying I know how to fix it. I'm way past the point where I think I know how to fix society, but there is this inequity in society. This, we don't have equality of opportunity,
Hmm.
and it's that. It's just wanting to talk about that because I struggled with it. You know, being young and successful and coming from that background, all of a sudden I felt alienated, to be honest, from the people I grew up with
Right.
because good stuff had happened and it was unusual and I felt awkward. So I had to wrestle with it and process it, I guess, is why it's always been an interesting theme to me.
Uh-huh. I'm curious. I mean, a couple to that. I'm curious because obviously it's been 10 years since the last studio album. So over those 10 years, obviously you reformed, was it in 2022, I believe? Um,
I think so, yeah.
so kind of what kind of things were going through your mind then in terms of missed opportunities, having split up with the band? Did a lot of that um, lead you to kind of reform again? And then once you reformed, did a lot of what you'd gone through during kind of that split kind of reinforce those feelings and make you really want to make the record that you wanted to make now?
So how we how we reformed and then how we came to make a record is probably not the story that people think it is. So
Right.
we had a horrible, horrible time in the music industry. Felt very, very lucky to get the opportunity, but then had a really difficult time navigating the world of major labels and the media and stuff, and a
Yeah.
world where we just didn't really fit. It wasn't a comfortable fit for us. And by the end, we were.
Can I just ask you why you said it wasn't a comfortable fit for you with labels and stuff without getting naming any names, obviously.
I To be as short and concise as possible as I can about it. I think certainly at that time, and I think the industry looks very different now, not better or worse, just different. At the time, we were in the center of the music industry, signed to, one of the biggest major labels. I feel that the music industry was a machine where people of little talent exploited people of talent, broadly speaking.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think anyone really cared about our well-being. I don't think anyone cared about our creative process. It's a money printing machine.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And I wasn't comfortable with that. I I started playing music when I was 4 years old. I started violin lessons when I was, and at the same time started studying music theory and taking exams. I was taking exams in infant junior school, going and sitting musical exams with people who were in their 20s.
Right.
I really, really care about music. I love it. It's my thing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it was just how much money can we turn what you know about music into? And I don't like that.
Right. Sure.
So it was never comfortable for me.
Hmm. So was that something that maybe led to you splitting up again because of the inability to kind of find your place in the industry, being
Yeah,
comfortable in your place in the industry?
ultimately, yeah. And I think it harmed the band. There were a lot of things, opportunities that I said no to because I don't want to go on telly and mime. I mean, we did in the early days
Right.
when we were, in our 20s. Go on E4 or whatever it was back then and mime, and you get there and you go, why can't we play it live? Like I've
Yeah.
got, I've been studying music theory since a kid. I can play live,
I know you've been on tour for like
Yeah, and
months and months and months when you it's just like riding a bike. Yeah.
And we did it once or twice, and I think it was unfortunate as well that those times that we were invited on those shows were also accompanied with some really stupid interviews from the hosts, one of which got pulled. Um, and I just went, I don't like this bit of this industry. I don't want to
Mhm.
engage with it, and that resulted in an opportunity cost for us going forward, and probably harmed the success of the band. But we had an uncomfortable time, and the band split. Because actually, I think more to do with what was going on at Radio One at the time because they'd stopped playing guitars, and
Right. Yeah.
that was the only route to market, really. Um, so to answer your earlier question, when we reformed, it wasn't this sort of, you know, let's let's get the band back together because we loved it. We hadn't loved it. We really
Right.
struggled with it. Um, but after the band split, I went and did some solo shows on my own without any music industry involvement and fell back in love with music.
Right.
And I wanted Liam and Andy to experience going and doing some shows without the machine. Um, and that's all it was meant to be. It was just let's go do, 10, 15 shows so that the end of this story of our, the first half of our adult life isn't a negative one. That
Yep.
we can go and do this thing together, do this reunion tour and go, actually, that was good. That's all we ever really wanted to do was go and play live music that we wrote to people and have a good time without all this horrible stuff. Um, and we did it, and it was beautiful. We were all like best friends again, and that it is such a nice process, and we wanted to sustain it because
Mhm.
we all enjoyed it so much. And we were kind of told if you're gonna by the promoters, the people who pay you to go and do the gigs, if you want to sustain it, there has to be new music.
Right.
And so we went right. Then I guess we got to have a think about making a new record. It wasn't.
Yeah.
We didn't all go, let's get back together and write a new record. It wasn't
Yeah.
like that. It's happened because there have been small steps where we've gone, shall we try this? Oh, we like that. Well, then, shall we try and do it a bit longer? Yeah, okay. Well, then if you want to do it a bit longer, you've got to do this. And the band seems to now be back together again,
Yeah.
which is great.
So I imagine that kind of led to the prolificness, no, of these 90, 100 songs that you managed to write without any pressure. So kind of like so recording this album must have been a completely different kind of experience compared to when you were knee high with all the producers kind of looking out for their wallets more than for the 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 bands.
Yeah. I when we started this, I said the so the worst experience I've had of making a record was the second Enemy record, where we were on tour and then we got in a van and we were in Mono Valley Studios, which was a great studios and great people run it. Um, but all of a sudden I was in a studio and it's like, well, I haven't written any songs.
Right.
Like, we've got four songs I'm working on, and at the same time, the label and management were kind of going, well, we need a record pretty quick.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, so now there's this horrible pressure, and I don't think I work well under pressure. And honestly, I was like not even halfway through the writing process when the songs that we'd recorded, were sent off to mastering, and that was the record.
Mm.
And so for me, that record is like demos. It,
Yeah.
I was never really happy with the songwriting on it, and that has always haunted me because, you know, that work exists, will do forever, and I'll always be judged on it. And from my point of view, it was sketches. Um,
Yeah.
and I really wanted to put that right. And so from the outset, I said, there can be no time pressure, there can be no rush. The record's finished when it's finished. Um,
Hmm.
and we set out to do 10 or 11 tracks. That changed fairly early on in the process because people don't buy music nowadays. But I'd done something on my solo records with Nigel where I didn't put it on any
Yeah.
streaming platforms. I just said, if you
Yeah.
just buy it.
Yeah,
And
I've spoken to a few kind of artists who are indie artists who they prefer just to kind of release it on vinyl and cassette and those kind of things first, and then a few months later
yeah,
on the streaming, once people have had a chance to actually buy the music, which is where they can make some money.
so we were going to do that with this. And then we said the problem with that is we're going to reduce our reach, right? We also,
Yeah.
if we're getting back together and going to the effort of making a record, we want people to hear it. So we said, well, what if we make 10 tracks that go on the streaming platforms for the reach and everyone hears that? And then we make 10 tracks that you can only get by buying a physical product.
Right.
And so then it was like, okay, we're doing a 20 track record. And my ratio of keepers to scrappers when I'm writing is, well, on We'll Live and Die in These Towns, which I was happy with, it was 3 to 1. We wrote 30 tracks to get about 10. And so
Right.
all of a sudden I went from I've got to write 30 songs to I've got to write 60 songs. But then when you get into the creative workflow of trying to write 60 songs, you're in the writing room pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Momentum builds. Sometimes I'd write 2 songs a day, and have to then stop and go, right, you're gonna burn yourself out. You need,
Mhm.
and so very quickly you end up realizing you've written, 100, 200 songs, whatever it is, and you've demoed 90. And, that's kind of how we ended up in that crazy process.
It's crazy. I mean, at the same time, obviously your open tour sold out completely. Fans are really clearly hungry for this new material. So how do you feel? But how does it feel to play songs from Social Disguises now to a crowd after so long away from those? Because I mean, imagine you amassed a lot more fans that haven't even seen you live before now.
Yeah, I honestly I find the whole process terrifying.
Terrifying, really. Yeah.
So there's been a difference in the way we write these songs. We used to write them in the rehearsal room, and you build memory as you're doing that to remember lyrics. It's
Hmm.
you're building a muscle memory there. The way we've written these songs, I've produced them in as close as I can to how I want them to finish, um, sounding, after the real recording process. Um, and I've sung as I'm writing the song, I've sung the vocals in, recorded it, clicked send to Liam and Andy, and yeah, and gone, do we like this? Yeah, we do. And then we've gone into a studio. We've all listened to the demos a load of times, and maybe I've sung along to them a bit in the car or something. But then we go into a studio. I put the vocals down. That's the second time I've sung the song.
Right.
So the third time I've sung the song is in pre-production rehearsals to go and do
The shows.
these album launch shows, and it's
Yeah.
terrifying. I don't have the muscle memory, and I'm older, and my memory's probably just not as strong as when I was 20. So it, it's terrifying just from that point of view of trying to remember and not make mistakes, because I hate making mistakes live. Um,
Yeah.
and then from another point of view, yeah, I haven't done this for 10 years, and that makes it unpredictable, and I don't like unpredictability. I
Yeah.
don't really like think change or new things, and we're going and doing something totally feels totally new because it's been a decade since I've done it. The landscape's totally different. We're all different, and so it's honestly quite intimidating, but you should do those scary things in life. That's where growth comes from, isn't it? So
Mhm.
just we're on the crazy train now. Let's stay on it.
I can't not bring in the song "Trouble" in about. I mean, obviously, the Trouble's kind of felt very. I can't remember what I said in the review now, but it's felt very much like someone who's almost paranoid about everything that's going on around them. Um, if it feels like trouble, if it smells like trouble, and it must be trouble. Is that kind of how you're feeling now? You're kind of a little bit kind of petrified about how you're going to take this on the road now and how it's going to do, how it's going to release, or was it about something completely different, that song?
I think it's trouble's a couple of things, right? Which is, I think it's generally about appetite for risk, which as I've gotten older has reduced.
Right.
Like I used to I used to enjoy certain bits of risk. Um, I now feel like I hate confrontation of any kind. Like if I buy something and it's faulty, don't worry about it. You're not going to hear from me. You know,
Hmm.
I'm just going to buy it again, something else. Um, you know, I just um, it's this kind of feeling as I've gotten older of just take the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
if something seems like it's going to be tricky, maybe steer away from it. And I'm
Hmm.
not saying that's right. I'm just saying it's a feeling that I'm more aware of the older I get, and the more society has evolved into the world we now live in of, constant immediate judgment
Yeah.
without trial or without consideration, and cancel culture of just
Yeah.
good luck cancelling us. We haven't been on the radio since about 2013. But, you
Yeah.
know, but, but this whole notion of slip up once, make one tiny error of judgment, and
The
you're
keyboard warriors are on your case. Yeah.
yeah, and it's beyond the internet now. I think it's
Yeah.
it's and we're so quick to judge as a society, and we're so slow to just pause and reflect. And it feels like a lot of things are, to me personally, I know to younger, more energetic people, maybe not. It feels like stuff isn't worth it. 90% of the time, it's not worth the fight.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I encounter injustice, and whereas before I'd go, okay, right, actually put me through to your manager because I think, you know, this isn't right. We'll have a now I'm just
Hmm.
like, fine.
Try and see later. Yeah. Yeah.
So Trouble's kind of a bit about that.
No, yeah, I think that brings me to the next point, which was something that did heavily lean into in the review, is the fact that despite it being such a kind of, it felt like such an angry, frustrated, regretful album. Like I said, it never tipped into whining or wallowing whatsoever. It's an angry, but it's never complaining about anything specifically. It's never whining or wallowing or making people feel sorry for how you feel.
Yeah, I don't like the currency that is afforded to victimhood
Yeah,
in our culture today. It really, because there are people who are really, really affected victims of all kinds of things, and not just in our society, but in the world. And it it fundamentally changes the way that we react to people who are genuinely victims of circumstance or events when we give social value to victimhood, because
yeah.
it encourages victimhood. And
Hmm.
it kind of, I don't think that woe me has ever been a useful approach, certainly not for me, maybe for other people. I think we're all delivered loads of challenges in life. They're all pretty unique. And, you know, it's maybe this is the the British born in me, but I'm kind of just like, let's just get on with it. Just,
Hmm.
keep calm and carry on, or stiff upper lip, or all that,
Yeah.
whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, let's crack on and just try and make the most of it. But that doesn't mean we should ignore struggles.
Yeah.
We can highlight them and go, right, this is tough, but let's crack on.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of just where I'm at in life. There's certain things that are tricky, but we shouldn't be defeated by that, and we shouldn't, like you say, wallow is the perfect word.
Yeah.
You know, we should acknowledge them, talk about them, and then crack on.
Hmm. I'm quite curious about your work with you worked with Matt Terry before. How does his production approach shape the Enemy sound this time? And did his role change at all for this record compared to earlier albums?
Yes. So this record has been made in a totally different way to anything we've ever made before. Every record I've ever made, I've been introduced to a producer. We've played them the song live, and then they've recorded it, and they've had ideas um, like on the first record, I remember um, Simon Barnicott, who produced that one, saying, I want to mic up a piano, put it through an amp, then mic up the amp, put that through a delay. That was on a way from here to create some textural background.
Hmm.
Fascinating stuff. But I wasn't from that world,
Right.
from the world of composing, not producing. as I've gotten older, I'm much more interested in producing, not the technical engineering side of it. You can sit me in front of a a G Series SSL and I'll marvel at it, but I don't know how to work it, and I'm not
Right.
interested in learning how to work it. What what I like doing is I demo using Logic, and I like messing around on there to an extent. I understand how to mess around with guitar sounds. I like playing with synths, and I like messing around with size and space that that you place instruments in. And so to get to the point, this time what I delivered the producer sounded like a finished record, except
Right.
it had processed drums on, which Liam needed to redo, and the
Hmm.
guitars had never been through an amp; they'd never moved air, and there is I think, a noticeable difference in the way a guitar that's gone through an amp sounds to a guitar that's been done in the box on a plug-in on Logic.
Right.
And so the mandate for this record was this is what I want it to sound like, but just plus. So we spent a lot of time chasing guitar tones that I've got, in the box through a plugin, chasing that and going, okay, we need to recreate that, but then put it through an amp, and then same with sort of drum tones, and we were redoing a lot of stuff. So
Hmm.
so basically, the creative heavy lifting of the production decisions had been done before we were in a recording environment, as much as anything for cost. Because
Right.
if you're in an expensive recording studio, and we've done this as the enemy, sitting around going, "Oh, I wonder what a Hammond would sound like on that track." You're paying a lot of money to find out what a Hammond would sound like on
Yeah.
that. Whereas you can on Logic sit in a spare bedroom and go, "That's what a Hammond would sound like on that track for free."
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
no, that it's a totally different process now. The way we take music into a studio.
Hmm. And then what the way that you kind of produce the music to take into the studio, is that also, are you kind of envisaging how that'll then take another format on the live circuit, or is that something that you just kind of take for granted that it'll work whichever sound we come up with?
You have to you have to have a bit of sort of you got to have a bit of resignation of just this might be really hard to do live,
Yeah.
because ultimately, you know, you don't want to hold yourself back. You don't want to go, oh, but if we put two synths on there, who's going to play them? You know,
Right.
because if it needs two synths, if you're listening to it and going, no, it just really needs that, it needs that melodic synth, but I also want that percussive one, and you don't put it on there. Every time I listen to that track on record, I'm going to go, "Shit, but it hasn't got that."
Hmm.
Um, so you have to kind of go, we'll deal with that later. Like we'll figure
Yep.
that out. We'll do it live. Um, and and then cross that bridge when you come to it. And sometimes what
Yeah.
you find is we can't do this song live, without bringing in loads more musicians, which we can't afford. So, but for me, I enjoy making records when we can do it the way I like to do it so much that I would prioritize that over knowing that I could recreate it live.
Right. Hmm. Uh-huh. So I mean, talking about the tour, obviously touring is where a lot of the money comes from nowadays because music doesn't sell. But at the same time, like you said, that you have initially kind of thought of releasing 10 songs on streaming services and then a physical album. That's changed by the sounds of it. No, you've decided to stick with this album, but there are various versions of this album coming out. But having said that, does that mean that we could be in for some more songs very, very soon as well?
So yeah, I don't know what you've been sent, but there are 20 tracks. So there's the first 10
Oh,
tracks,
I've only heard the 10 tracks that are the actual
right?
the album per se. Yeah.
So that's the core record that will go straight to the streaming sites, and then for legal reasons and to navigate the way that the streaming services write contracts, the next 10 tracks are a deluxe version of the
All
record,
right, I didn't know that.
which you can buy physically, um, on the website, vinyl, CD. I think we're doing cassette as well.
Yeah, so no, I've seen a cassette on there as well. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think we we're going to try it this way. Honestly, I don't know if it's worked. Um, at some point, the 10 tracks from the deluxe um, will will land on the streaming platforms as well.
Hmm.
When I do in my solo work, I do it 12 months after the release. Um, we've got some stuff planned for for 12 months from now. So I
Right.
don't know if it will land 12 months from now or if it'll be delayed a bit or maybe we bring it forward, but it there's some quite big exciting stuff that will happen that might delay it. Um, it's those second 10 tracks, it's not 10 bonus tracks. The remit for those second 10 tracks was this has to be as strong as the first 10 tracks. This has to be something we would put out and say in its own right that could be the album. Um,
Right. I need to hear it already because I love the first 10 tracks. I need it already then. Yeah.
yeah, I'm proud of all of it, and that but that's now you see why we had to write or demo 90 tracks because it's
Right. That's
like
because you said earlier that because I'd only received those 10 tracks, I just imagined that it was something that you'd done away with in the end. Yeah.
I think some of my favorite stuff is on the
On the
second
deluxe one.
tracks,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, it's out there. If people want to support the band, and that's the bit where people buying that format with the second 10 tracks, that is essentially what will pay for the record. There's no record label now. We've self-funded this. We've taken the money from the festivals we did and said let's use that money to make the record. We instead of taking that money for ourselves, we said let's invest that and
Hmm.
hopefully we sell enough of the deluxe that covers the cost of it. Don't know if we will. Don't know if it'll work. I feel like we're kind of in Wild West times. I don't know what model will or won't work,
Yeah.
but we're happy to try stuff because that's how you find out, isn't it?
Uh-huh. Well, I hope it works. I mean, you definitely piqued my interest because I didn't even know that there was another 10 track, so I can't wait for those. So there'll be a deluxe review coming soon as well on that then.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. So yeah, I don't want to keep you too long. Just to finish off, then obviously you've got um, festival season, arena shows coming up, and you'll be supporting. But you've got Ocean Color Scene, who I know that you are a huge fan from way back when. I think you were on, was it on Virgin Radio the other day, or you were on the radio the other day saying that it was pretty much the first song that you learned to play on the guitar was Ocean Color Scene, no? So that must be mad to be touring with them, no?
Yeah, we've played with so many big bands. Like we've supported the Rolling Stones, and we've done stadium shows with Bon Jovi. We shared a stage with the Sex Pistols at Isle of Wight Festival one year, Iggy Pop, Oasis, Stereophonics, Manics. Like we've played,
Everyone's. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and Ocean Colour Scene are the only band where every single time we support them, I stay and watch the whole show.
Right.
They've got so many songs, and I don't understand why they aren't more massive than they are.
Right now, yeah, I keep because I keep seeing videos on Instagram and stuff of them playing like really small gigs and stuff, and I'm like, why are they not doing the same as Oasis? Because they're fantastic. I'd probably prefer them to Oasis, to be honest.
I've got a theory. I think I think the Midlands is seen as culturally less valuable than maybe the North.
Mm,
And I think I don't know why that is. And maybe it's a chip on my shoulder, and maybe it's not the case at all.
uh-huh.
But I feel like bands swagger out of Manchester
Yeah,
enough.
it's a lot. It's the attitude as well, like more of the northern attitude, is kind of more.
They celebrate themselves, right? They're proud of their musical culture. They've contributed a lot to it over the years, and that becomes perpetual. It becomes a snowball effect
Yeah.
of we make good bands. And so when another Manchester band pops up, there's celebration and there's the,
Hmm.
yeah, this is what we do. You know,
Yeah.
and it's, I think that affects the whole of the North. And then you look at the South and you have bands like Blur,
Hmm.
bands where you go, well, we make intellectually significant music.
Yeah.
And you can't knock them. They do, you know,
Yeah.
like they'll push the boundaries and and it moves things forward. It changes the envelope. Um, and then the Midlands, I think, has created some absolutely, you
Yeah,
know,
fantastic band. I don't know if you heard the Claws is one of my favorite bands at the moment.
love the claw.
Fantastic band. Yeah.
And historically, you look at the specials, the contribution they make to culture internationally, and then you look at Ocean Colour Scene and you go, well, so if you take a band like the Claws and you take a fresh Manchester band, you know it's easier for the media and the public to an extent to pigeonhole the Manchester band in a positive way and go,
Yeah.
brilliant, Manx making great music again, as they always have and always will.
Hmm.
The Midlands doesn't come with that label. And the way we circumnavigated that bit was to bang on about Coventry. It was to
Right.
about this is where we're from and we're proud of it. And you get uplift from that because the area gets behind you and feels they kind of own some stock in it, which they do, definitely.
Hmm.
And I think Ocean Colour Scene are a victim of the media not basically just not understanding what the Midlands is and how it fits into culture. I think that's
Right.
why they're not playing Oasis-sized gigs because my God, they've got the songs. Like,
Yeah.
to,
I do think they have. I think they are. I don't know if they have or they are recording some new material. I'm not 100% sure.
yeah, they
I
might
think.
they might be. They've been pretty consistent. Like they've
Mm.
kept making new stuff of
Yeah.
high,
Yeah.
and I'm really glad actually to see them playing. I mean, these are pretty big shows, playing the Hydra in Glasgow, and it's where they should be. It's where they should
You
always
are.
have been, and I feel massively honoured. I said in that radio interview, I'll never say no to an Ocean Colour Scene gig.
So.
It's I owe all of my ability to play D major, A major, and E minor to Ocean Colour Scene. It's and I'm always there for an OCS gig, always.
Sure. Fantastic. Well, listen, I'm going to let you go. I don't want to keep you too much time. Listen, Tom, thank you so much for your time. I wish you the best of success with the album. I'm sure it's going to go out really. It's going to go down really, really well. I hope this deluxe helps it get to the top of the charts where it deserves to go. And thank you very much for the kind words about the review. I didn't expect that at all. And thanks for being such an open book and speaking to me.
No, it's a pleasure, and it's really nice to go back to the start. It's really nice to talk to someone who you can tell actually has listened to the record, gives a shit about music and what they do. It's a pleasure talking to you, mate.
Looks like trouble